Welcome. Nice to see you've made it. Please, take a seat.
It is my pleasure, sir.
So, you're absolutely sure the great powers are still distracted?
Yes, sir, they have never been any more.
Great. So, they will never see us taking over, right?
Well,
What?
it all seems to be going fine.
No. You were going to tell me something.
It really doesn't matter.
Right. The two great powers are too distracted fighting each other. Especially with...
So today we're going to be taking a look at a scenario where civilization starts over. In the last episode, few completely irrelevant events happened, but we did see the start of World War III, also known as the War of Influence. So if you guys enjoy this video, make sure to like and subscribe, and yeah, I think we should just get straight into it, shall we? So starting off, we're going to see Sweden and this German country down here quickly come to occupy all of the rest of this region of Germany. Germany was, well, they're nowhere near the country that they were before World War II, and yeah, they're not going to be able to do anything about this. But the Dark Union will decide that they'll basically just come in and they'll occupy the rest of this land for the time being, so they can defend it better against Sweden. I've also decided to go ahead and colour the alliances in different colours to kind of show what sides they're on. Now coming down to Iberia, we're going to see a very, I guess, equal war. Spain and Portugal at this point are almost the exact same strength, and Spain is going to have more success in the north, where they kind of, I guess you could say, people, which they're both same people, but the more supporters of Spain are in this northern region, and Portugal will do it in the southern region with kind of their more Portuguese people are, and they'll also capture the city right now. I would though say that Portugal is still slightly stronger, considering their region is a lot more built up. However, Ibiza will be captured by the Spanish country. We then have the Italians starting the invasion of Croatia for, I believe this is the second time they've done this. And yeah, as you can see, Croatia is vastly outnumbered in this war. They have Hungary and the Italians on their border, so it's not going to be a very good war for them. We also have Albania, who is here as well in that area, and yeah, Croatia is just simply getting completely taken out. I don't know what is happening right now. And yeah, the Italians are actually going to make a invasion of this kind of era here, and quickly start to advance towards the capital. So you can see how bad this war is going to be for these guys. Now moving over to Ukraine, also they are outnumbered. You're kind of seeing a pattern in this war. There's a lot of countries who are outnumbered, like a lot, but on every side. As all of these countries will start to move into Ukrainian territory, and the Ukrainians are definitely, well, they're going to have a bad time in this war. Now moving down to America, we see that the Mexicans are going to start an invasion of Colombia, as they'll push down in this Costa Rican front right here. I mean, maybe Colombia could beat Mexico on their own, but with Brazil and also, well, with Brazil as well, yeah, they're not going to be able to do it. As they'll manage to push all the way down here, and they'll eventually meet up where the Panama Canal is, where they're unable to cross due to heavy protection by the Colombians. That's not stopping Brazil as they start to invade through this region into these more Guyana, or Venezuelan areas actually, and they'll even take Trinidad and Tobago and continue moving across Colombia. However, Canadian Union help is quickly arriving in Colombia. Now I want to talk about something quick that is going to play a part in this war, and that is that Sweden and the Dark Union, kind of like a few years before this war start, they basically said if there ever was a war and one of their allies nuked another ally, then they wouldn't nuke each other basically. So mutually assured destruction kind of works, but not as you may think. So say the Canadian Union was like nuke Brazil, they totally could, and there wouldn't be really any repercussions from that. That would be for Brazil to, you know, retaliate. So that's just something to bring up quickly. Anyway, now moving over to Wales, we have the Welsh starting to invade into Scotland. I'd say they are probably slightly stronger than Scotland, and they'll push up all the way to this northern border. Not to mention they also have Ireland, who is beating back the Scottish Navy over here, as Ireland is able to basically gain full naval dominance across like all of Scotland, and yeah, they'll do this like this. The British Union will also start moving up this coastal areas and also gain more naval dominance across Scotland. This could be one of the quickest wipeouts in any war history, because Wales is just smacking Scotland around at the minute. Actually, there is a landing made in this area, and we have a, well, this. Coming down to probably the most interesting front, Eastern Europe. This is going to be a lot more or a lot less one-sided than some of the other fronts in this war. As the Polish are going to make an invasion into this country here, and they'll even like push down all the way on top of this river. Also being helped with Hungarian troops, but Hungary, they're going to have to fight another country, that is Russia. As the Russians will start marching into Hungarian territory, this is a flashback to World War II, except it's kind of the other way around in World War II. Russia, despite the fact that they've lost their empire, still has a decent navy. They pretty much they kept all their populated areas except for like Grey Russia. However, like I said a few episodes ago, these are basically parts of Russia at this point, so it's not very different. Kind of treated as like Soviet satellite states, how that was in the Cold War in real life. And this is going to allow Russia to push back tremendously or push into Hungary tremendously, even meeting up with this river region over here. However, they aren't going to be able to cross the Transylvania mountains, so they'll definitely have to find another way to deal with Hungary in this war, and nuclear bomb. We also have a slight invasion made by Moldova, and Hungary at this point is doing so bad that they get kicked back by Croatia, and Croatia will start their own invasion into Hungary now, getting towards where this river is, and very close to the capital. And Hungary is very rapidly failing. Anyway, coming back up to Germany, we are going to see the Dark Red Union just manage to push back against Sweden. They're obviously more specialised in this area, and they'll be able to capture the city. However, we actually have this orange German country managing to invade into the Dark Red Union and even threat or siege on this city right here. I also want to say that by this point, Sweden has converted both of these countries, into monarchies. So yeah, they're able to do that, and they also are supporting this country a lot. It's basically all of Germany supporting this country. We do see these guys push back against Poland. However, Sweden has just done something, and that is one, they've kind of taken over German coast, just like this. And now they're starting mass naval battles against the Dark Red Union in these waters over here, pushing down just like this. Also, you know, I kind of got to update some of these regions in this water area because it's definitely changed a lot by now. But yeah, that's something to note. And with this, the Dark Red Union is also going to get pushed back over to the border of where this river is. And Sweden will actually be able to cross this, and they'll start pushing back tremendously now against the Union that is dark and red. I don't want to say the Dark Red Union again. They'll get pushed back to their border, and eventually, after a few months of maybe a few weeks of a stalemate, we have Sweden officially invading into the Dark Red Union. I did say this a few episodes ago, but Sweden and the Dark Red Union are tied on power. It's very, very close, so yeah. And yes, deep desaturated grape is doing extremely well against dark red, at least in the opening stages of this war. But down here in the Balkans, we see the We see the Italians manage to capture the capital of Croatia. However, at the same time, the Croatians cross the border and manage to actually capture the capital of Hungary. Now, I want to make out Croatia isn't a weak country. They're able to at least stand the run against some countries. And it's a lucky day for Sweden, as they just gotten a new ally. As we see that the pink Romanian country will join into Sweden's alliance. They will start their invasion into this panhandle region of Albania, and this is really good for Sweden because it gives them a way to kind of counteract the Dark Red Union's dominance in the Balkans. As the pink Romanians, by this point, they're probably like a very similar strength to Albania. However, Albania had like no forces on this border, so they're able to quickly blast through. Coming back over to Spain, we have the Spanish country managing to push back against Portugal. However, over here, the Portuguese will only do good against the Spanish in a very quick stop war. However, we have lots of reinforcements arriving inside of the Portuguese navy, so they're going to be able to quickly come out and capture or regain naval dominance around Ibiza, and the navy quickly comes and starts to get near to the coast of Spain. They won't be able to exactly hit the coast of Spain, however they really kind of bulge out their navy, and they're using a majority of their naval forces to try and make this Mediterranean invasion of Spain. For Morocco, they are a pretty neutral nation to the Europeans. They kind of let anyone they want through this trade area, or I should say the Strait of Gibraltar, and there's no tax or fee to it, so they can just do this. And we eventually have the Portuguese navy actually sending military assets through here and arriving on the coast of Spain. Let's see how this goes in a minute. Anyway, coming over to North America, as we'll see the first fighting in this continent. If you count this as North America, then yeah, we've already seen it, but we'll see the first fighting in this region of the continent. As Sweden will manage to get the right-sided Triangle Alliance, every single member in that alliance, to join in on this war. That being, of course, Florida, Red Mexico, and California. And this is going to definitely shake some stuff up in North America. As before, the Canadian Union has complete dominance in this continent. Like there was just there's just no one else who could challenge them. But now Florida has joined this war. They're going to definitely challenge this war for the Canadian Union. The Floridians leaving their border and officially making the invasion into the Canadian Union. Both a similar strength, but they're going to be able to do it. Also have the cartel, or the California cartel, making invasions out here, moving into these Canadian Union areas. And this war is going horrible for the Canadian Union in the north, and they're going to have to make a bit of a sacrifice, and that is stopping supply in Colombia, as they don't have any way to sort of, they got to fight against Florida. So this is going to lead to basically all reinforcements dropping, and Colombia is going to get rapidly invaded by the powers. We even see the Floridian Navy basically kind of dart down to this region down here, and they're going to do something quite cool. And they're going to start invading into these Colombian areas just like this, and they'll eventually get towards this coast over here, and the invasion of Colombia by Florida will officially start. But not all hope is lost for Colombia, as we see the pink, but we see that the pink Peruvian country is going to join up in the Square Alliance. They were invaded by Brazil a few episodes ago, and they're looking to gain their land back now, as they'll make the invasion into the Brazilian Empire, I guess you could call it. However, a bad thing for Colombia is the Panama Canal has finally been crossed. Coming back up to Britain, no, not good at all. This war is awful. As Scotland will be completely cut off from anyone else, and we have the Welsh country moving up over here and officially capturing the capital of Scotland. Now, I think I did kind of hype Scotland up to be powerful a few episodes ago. They're really not powerful at all. They were very over-exaggerated in the strength. That's because the main populated areas of the British Union they were all in Wales, and not Wales, but they were all in this southern part of England here. Not really much was happening up in Scotland. Plus, this northern region wasn't even part of the British Union for very long. We also have the Irish taking over this entire region, over all of this, and yes, Scotland has officially been wiped off the map. Finally, not finally, but it's fine. But if we come back to Russia, we have the Prussian country getting blasted by Poland, and eventually they'll completely capitulate. And Poland finally has their core heartlands back over here. Not so fast though, as the Swedish Navy will start doing close down on Poland, and yes, oh god, the Polish Navy has just been decimated. Sweden does have the best navy in the world at this point. They just passed Dark Union probably about an episode or two ago. And they'll make an invasion in the core lands of Poland, and they'll take the capital. Yikes, that is really not good. And it's also not going to go good for the Square team, as the Russians will start an invasion into Hungary. As the Croatians will continue their invasion of Hungary, and it's clear that this country is just completely falling apart. However, the live Italian country, who is really just doing good in this war, or you just call them Italy. Italy is doing extremely well in this war, and they completely cut Croatia off from the coast. And Croatia is kind of merging with Hungary for really. They're getting pushed out of Croatia and get pushed into Hungary. Bit of a weird thing to happen, But Croatia's basically lost all form of the government now, and there'll basically be a mini revolution inside the country. They'll be to get rid of the old, just terrible government that didn't do anything right, and it'll completely just take over Croatia, in a weird thing, and they'll basically just join up with the Italian occupation. And what's going to happen over here is this is just going to basically become a militia group that supports the old government inside of Hungary. And yeah, pretty weird thing. They'll start to advance more into Hungary, and they'll basically say, hey, we're going to leave Croatia and make our new home here, yay. Down in the Balkans, though, we do have the Albanians pushing back against the Pink Romanians, getting to their border. I mean, the Pink Romanians are slightly stronger than Albania, but it's going to be a very even war. However, Albania, with a lot of support from the Dark Red Union, is going to be able to push into Pink Romania, and it's not looking very good for them at the minute, considering that, they're good in the first bit, but they're just not doing very good. They don't really have a second wind in this war. Oh my god, I have not updated the sea layers over here. Oh god, that's I'll do it quickly. There we go, now it's been updated. But now we've got to move down to this region of Africa, as something really bad has just happened on the border of this orange country. And that is that, this cross alliance, it's not really for democracies. I think every single country in here is a dictatorship. I'm wrong, but I'm just going to say that these guys are a monarchy now. Well, why not? And they've just been given orders to roll out an invasion into the Namibian country right here. However, they kind of had a mistaken thing, and they got some coordinates wrong, and they accidentally have invaded into the Angolan country. And this kind of drags the Cross Alliance into the war. So, you get the gist. South Africa's going to be like, oh god, and now we've got to fight a world war. Or we've never fought a world war before. What do we do, guys? But yes, the Cross Alliance will be dragged in and pretty much like join Sweden's team. And they're probably a little, I mean, they're not stronger, but they are very strong. So we have the pink Tanzanian country managing to fully push the orange team out of this lake, and eventually they make invasions over in this region. But you may just be realizing something, and that is that the Congan country, or the Angolan Congan country, whatever you call them, they're not just in one alliance, but they're in two alliances, and we're now going to see the Gear Alliance join in on this war. And you can truly see that at this point, most continents have been involved. The only continent not involved yet is Oceania, and why do we need to get them involved? Okay, just to get involved, I'm just going to say the Dark Reunion owns this island here, don't tell anyone. And there's going to be a lot of fighting in this southern African region in the next coming years. Back over to Ukraine, we have the Moldovan country completely cutting them off from Crimea and quickly advancing over here. And they're having flashbacks to the War of Succession at this point because they have not had a beating this bad since then. The Ukraine, they've been a really bullied nation throughout history. I don't know why they've been so bullied, but they just have been. We have the Moldovan country gaining full naval dominance across this entire region of the Ukrainians, as they'll get like up to here, as the Russians will basically just move down here, and they'll start rapidly just obliterating the Ukrainians. That's a very, very good word. Ooh, grammar's really good. But eventually the capital of Ukraine down here is captured, and now they are starting to move into the most historic lands Ukraine has ever had. These have been their land continuously since they lost the War of Succession. They kind of migrated over to here, as the Russians will start to close in the north, and the Moldovans in the west. And on the 1st of January 1978, the Ukrainian Prime Minister will give a speech right in this city here, basically thanking every single Ukrainian citizen for being here. But unfortunately, on this day, the Ukrainian country officially dies. The Californians now up here will start to invade more into the... Oh, we're in the American front line, sorry. Very bad introduction there. But they'll start to push in the south. However, in the north, the Canadian Union will finally get their stuff together. Very family-friendly channel, so we're definitely not going to say any bad words. They'll move in the north, and they'll try and push over to this kind of river here, on which they are successfully able to do. And they have one goal in this war. One, eliminate the dictatorship. Oh no, they have two goals in this war. One, eliminate the dictatorship in Florida, and two, eliminate the cartel in California. However, the Floridian task must be the hardest of the bunch, because Florida is a very strong country, and yeah, we see. However, there's one thing about Florida, is that they're not very good in defending every single area, so the Canadian Union is going to be able to push back over here, and eventually push in this region, fully making connection up with this river. Over in Hungary now, unfortunately, the Russians will be connecting up with this militia area, which isn't really on a side. So what we're kind of going to see is them like pushing into the Russian invasion lands. They really don't care what side they're on. They're not on the star or square sides. They just do whatever. And eventually, the Dark Union will make a choice to basically tell Poland to occupy this land here, just for the duration of this war until they can fully like get Hungary back. Coming back to this front over here, we see the Swedish continuing invasion. I'm gonna have to make this brush more. We do see the Swedish push into the Dark Union, like just doing all that, and like the Swedish military is like really just camping on this area. They don't really need to fight any other fronts except for like Poland, but other than that, they can basically just do what they want. And they'll eventually be able to capture the first major city up here from the Dark Union, as the navy will start to be pushed back over in this coastal area right here. However, the Dark Union is not down and out. They'll be able to push back down here, and eventually they'll even start another push back into Germany. They'll also be able to win this siege, which lasted nearly a year at this point, against the Orange country, and they'll even start invading in the southern regions of this country, meeting up with this river. And all the enemy down here, they can't wait to fight the Dark Union. They hate these guys. And what do you see? There's a country down here that really isn't focused on you, and you're going to start to get invaded. These guys will literally cross through the Alps to try and invade a Dark Union ally. This is how much they hate democracy in the Dark Union. This is unbelievable levels of hate. I guess you could say this is kind of like how Venezuela is to the US. It's very similar to that, but yeah, these guys will invade Italians very, very quickly, even going through the Alps, for God's sake. So the Dark Union, to kind of deal with these guys, because they don't really border them at the minute, they're going to need another country. They were saying, why can't they just cross this river? Well, the country, this German country right here, is having a very good defense, and they're not going to be able to pass this river. They're able to kind of get into other regions, but they kind of being told by this country to like defend the hell out of this southern area so they don't get invaded. And this country is they're not strong, but they're able to boss people around. So what the Dark Union is going to do is they're going to get a country that has pretty much been neutral in every World War except for one World War. That was World War One, where they kind of had to not be neutral. Actually, no, they've been in every single World War. Switzerland, yes, or I guess you could say the what's it called again? The Geneva country will join in on this war. With backing from the Dark Union, they will start to move into this white country, and they do not see this coming, obviously, so it's going to go very well for the Dark Union. We also have Italy pushing back in the north, finally realising that these puny like country up here exists. And yeah, the Italians will basically be like really annoyed. And what they're going to find is how bad the crimes of this country have been. They find like mass grave sites right here of Italian citizens they've killed. And they get really angry, and Sweden's going to find out about this, and they're like, yeah, you're not very good for our PR, mate. So, we're not sorry, but we're kicking you out of the Star Alliance. Bye-bye. And this country's like, wait, what? And then they get a nicely placed nuclear bomb on top of their capital city, as the Italians have just nuked, or launched one of their 4 into just white country's territory. Which will also decrease the Dark Unions by 1, and yeah, 1 nuke has finally been launched in this war. The only nuke so far to be launched in this war. And Sweden doesn't care, because like I said earlier, the nuke policy. But this guy's government is basically just completely destroyed. The dictator is killed, and they'll be occupied for now. And yeah, they're not going to exist after this war if the Dark Union wins. Anyway, moving now to Pink Romania again, they're going to be able to now push back against Albania, as the Russians are going to send a lot of reinforcements down to this country, also Moldova, since there's no more Ukraine to deal with. And tens of thousands of Moldovan troops will start to hit this front line and pushing back against Albania. And there's many bomber planes across this front line that have launched. Obviously, World War II, they were like small planes and stuff that I mean, they weren't able to like fully do the stuff that they were in actual World War II, because World War II in this timeline was obviously in the like 1910s. But now they have fully advanced mechanized war equipment, and they're able to use it for the first time in a major world war. And it was showing how effective it is, as they're able to push back against Albania, and the Albanians are kind of like just freaking out at the minute, because if we get invaded again, we're done for. We're going to be a little tiny like city-state like we were before, like looking like this. So the Albanians will start to conscript a lot of their population, and this isn't going to be very liked, but I mean, it's not like they play War of Succession again. They're not going to collapse because of it, but it's just not very liked. Moving now to South Africa, finally, we have this gold country starting to move into Angola. However, Angola is able to dish out a little bit of response by invading into this region of the country. As we see this region also be captured by Tanzania, and yeah, like I said in the last episode, they are like the 5th, 6th strongest country in Africa. They'll be like the 6th or 7th strongest country in Africa. Anyway, they'll also start an invasion into this blue country, immediately sieging on their capital. And they'll also push around this area, meeting up with this river and pushing over to Lake Victoria once again. And they'll basically push this country out of Lake Victoria. But a country that really just doesn't like the pink Tanzanian country is finally going to join in on this war, and they've been in a few wars with this country, so I think you guys can understand why they wouldn't want to join. I think you guys would understand why they would want to join this war. But we see Madagascar will join the war in the Gear Alliance. They'll immediately push Tanzania off their island, as well as start to push their navy, which is they've been preparing for this moment for years. They've just been waiting for the right moment to finally get the revenge against Tanzania. Like, first Tanzania took like all of this land from them in mainland Africa, and then they took a kind of colony on this island. So yeah, they definitely want their revenge. Anyway, moving up back with the Canadian Union, they're going to push back against Florida once again. Like I said, they're focused more on this area, which Florida is going to be able to do good in this area, as they'll even start to meet up with the Great Lakes, and you'll see what they do now with this. As the Floridian Navy will start to mobilise in the Great Lakes, they'll manage to transport ships over from their kind of base of operation, which I say is like down here in Carolina, up to where this is like right here. And they'll manage to push over to this region of the Canadian Union and make a naval landing right here. This is a pretty detrimental thing. They're also doing good with their naval landing in Colombia, as they're able to take a lot of land and even threaten the capital of this country. Also have the Mexicans pushing down here and eventually making, or officially getting South America actually, no. And the Mexicans get into this region, however they are met with the Darien Gap. So what they're basically going to do is they're going to use their navy to do this, and they're going to make a landing just right here now. The Mexican Navy will also like come out here and take over these islands as well. Pretty pointless move. This is in the top 10 most pointless things to happen in World War III. But eventually they'll basically manage to push all around the Darien Gap area, and they'll just mark it down as occupied. I doubt there's anyone living here anyway, so don't really harm anyone. But they'll manage to push into Colombia and also cut off the capital city, in which both of their navies will do a tremendous job of cutting off the Colombian, just like this, and yeah. And eventually the Colombians will fall over to the Floridians, or at least the capital. And yeah, it's not going to get much better from here, as we see the Colombians kind of darting out in this more sort of like getting into the rainforest areas, but it's not like that there. However, they will start to kind of snake down the coast in this region, just like that. And they'll spread out in any major city they see. And also in this region, Peru is pushed back by Brazil, and Brazil will quickly be able to wipe the floor with this country. They'll also officially cut the Colombians off from any Caribbean coast, which is really bad. And we'll also see the Brazilians using their special forces to start invading the Amazon, and they do it really quickly and basically take over all of this land just like this. And eventually they'll make it to this major city right here, leaving only one left in Colombia. But eventually, unfortunately for Colombia, their entire coastal axis down here will be cut off, and we have this entire region falling over to Mexican control. Now moving over to the Welsh country, some of these regions in Scotland are beginning to become quite unstable. And it's not because of Scottish kind of wanting independence, it's because of a different country that used to exist wanting independence. Although it wasn't really a country, it was more of a, let's say, a union. And these sort of protests and sort of unrest will start to seep down into the more northern areas of Wales. So I'll kind of show a quick area of where everything above this line is kind of experiencing some pretty like rowdy protests, which is starting to become a little bit violent. Buildings are kind of getting set on fire. Buildings are kind of getting set on fire at this point, and this is becoming really bad for Wales. Now coming over to Florida, this place, oh not Florida, coming to Portugal, this place has been very kind of what's it called? It's been very left out of this war so far, but eventually now we have the Portuguese completely like just getting full naval dominance, and they'll eventually start an assault on the coast. As we'll start a move over here. And the Portuguese will do a very quick campaign to meet up down here so they can better supply their navy and not have to go through Morocco anymore. They were starting to become quite annoyed that they were moving sort of military assets through their ocean territory. But the, I guess, Portuguese will be able to move more up here and just, you know, obviously do. And they are fully kicked out of this northern region here, and they'll be pushed in by over here. So this front is not going good for Spain at the minute, and they could be, you know, collapsing in the next episode. Now coming to the Dark Red Union, they'll be able to officially push back against Sweden. Now finally starting a re-invasion into this area. But the Russians have made a breakthrough over in this region, which will allow the all the Prussians to sort of be invaded into, and the Polish are not having a good time on this front. Side note, I think the Baltic front is probably, or the Eastern European front is definitely my favourite front of this war. It's just so chaotic and everything's just popping off at the same time. Following this, we also have the Berlin country invading down here and cutting them off from this river, sorry, not lake, but they'll basically be able to occupy all of this land, and Poland not surviving. As the rest of Prussia will go over to Russia, and the Polish will officially fall, and you know this region occupied by them, it'll basically just go over to the militant group, or militia group, which will start fighting back against the Russians in Hungarian territory, and they'll also start invading into the old lands of Croatia, weirdly enough. However, Hungary may be down, but they're not out, as they'll start an invasion back, or start an invasion into the militia territory up here. But another good thing for the Dark Union will start happening, as we have the I'm just going to call it the Swiss team. The Swiss country will start an invasion of Bavaria. The Dark Union will continue their invasion into the Orange country. Now, a pretty big event that will kind of shape the rest of this war will happen as a top 10 power will be joining one of the alliances. I'll give you 5 seconds to guess who it is. I'll give you a clue. They're big and red. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. As Arabia will be joining in on the side of the Dark Union. As you can see, Arabia is the probably best democracy in the world. They're one of the best countries to live in. They're one of the richest countries in the world. And this could change the result of this war, or the result basically is the same. When are you going to find out? You'll have to find out in the next episode, because I'm leaving it here. Yes, World War One. Oh no, not World War One. World War 3 will be a 2-parter, because I think I made a kind of mistake with World War 2. It was an hour long, and like, you know, I'm all for like long videos and stuff, but making a video an hour long, yeah, it's not good. So I've decided to make this one shorter, or at least a 2-parter, because I don't want another hour long video on the channel. But World War, or the second part of World War 3 should be out in maybe either tomorrow or a few days when I record, or not when this is premiering. But anyway, I want to thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I'll see you in the final part of World War 3. Bye bye.